Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about Survivor Series predictions, and the next match that we have to talk about is CM Punk and Daniel Bryan against Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. Now, the first question that comes to my mind about this whole thing is why did they not include these two people on both sides of the elimination match? And I'm going to answer that question right now with something that, if you've read my Bleacher Report article about the eliminations order, that kind of covers it a little bit, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this. CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are too big to be thrown into that match because if they weren't the entire focal point, why would WWE waste them? And I hated the idea that they were going to split the 6 and 6 up from what we had seen on that episode where they looked like they were going that route. But it makes a lot more sense to go this way than to include them in there instead of the Usos. Luke Harper and Eric Rowan aren't that big. I mean, they physically are big, obviously, but they're not that big of stars to where them being included into an elimination match would be beneath them. But Punk and Daniel Bryan are. And if you need more matches on the card, we do have other people that don't have matches right now that could be thrown onto there. Damian Sandow, Dolph Ziggler, Ryback. But are any of them really going to be that much of a focal point in comparison to Punk and Bryan? So I think what we have here is a combination of you don't want to waste your star power, and Bray Wyatt can't wrestle right now. He's still injured, apparently. So if you aren't going to incorporate the three of them and two other people and make another elimination match, you just need to have a tag team match. And this is probably a stall, and we'll see the three members of the Wyatt family in some kind of match with these two men and maybe another person at TLC. And maybe we won't. I mean, maybe they're going to go in a different direction, but that's the way that I think that this is going to happen. And I think that the main way that you can get to that route is you need to have CM Punk and Daniel Bryan win. And I don't know about the match quality. It might be good. It might be kind of 50-50, but I think it's at least worth the star power element. So that's my whole scope, and it's going to come into play a little bit later on about the elimination match, but that's essentially all I wanted to throw out there. I want to get your opinions. So, Sean, what do you think about this match? Do you think, since you haven't been following it as much as some other people have lately, is this where you kind of were hoping that Survivor Series would go, or does this seem like this you didn't miss anything in the meantime?
As a guy who hasn't watched a Raw episode since Battleground, I haven't got a clue how Punk and Bryan come about as a tag team, but it just seems very thrown together to me. That's what I get for missing like 10 episodes of Raw. But
You want me to explain it to you really quick?
yes,
Because it's
yes,
easy and it's
please.
really dumb.
Yeah.
So after Shawn Michaels turned his back on Daniel Bryan at Hell in a Cell, Shawn Michaels comes out and says he did it because Triple H was his friend and he had to help his friend. More to that happened, but anyway, the whole thing is Daniel Bryan ended up putting the yes lock on Shawn Michaels in the middle of the ring. Shawn Michaels taps, and I guess that's supposed to be our closure for the Daniel Bryan against the Authority storyline, because literally as soon as they come back from commercial after that happens, Daniel Bryan is in the back being interviewed by Renee Young, and he is attacked by the Wyatt family. And all of a sudden, he's involved with the Wyatt family, who was also occasionally coming out and attacking CM Punk as well, and that made them a team. And that's how we got this match. That's it.
Huh. I see. Well, yeah, it's exciting stuff, isn't it? That's all I can say. But as what I'm gonna say about star quality, like you gotta have CM Punk and Daniel Bryan on the card. Like that's just a rule, you know.
Mhm.
But for my winners for this match is gonna be Punk and Bryan.
What do you think, Drew?
I wish they like as the same as Sean. I've paid a little bit more attention. I've watched some of the Raws, but I haven't been able to watch all of them because of school. So I wish they didn't go this route, mainly because it doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem like it should be. This should be a Survivor Series match. Kind of, it shouldn't be on the card. It should be something else, or it should have been a part of the elimination match. I just have a weird feel. It just doesn't seem right to me. So I'm gonna go with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. But I do remember Punk having a decent match with one of the Wyatt's on Raw a few
Luke
nights
Harper.
ago. Yeah, Luke Harper. My bad, Peyton. But it wasn't a bad match. Like this kid, I'm gonna guess this is gonna be at least a decent match. So hopefully it stays true and Daniel Bryan and Punk could put the Wyatts on their back, as some might say, and carry them to victory.
Way go.
I don't really give a shit about this match whatsoever. The whole way it came together was just incredibly dumb. As far as the match goes, I think they're going to put CM Punk and Daniel Bryan over them. I should at least fucking hope so. I hope it isn't some fuck finish with Bray Wyatt distracting them. They're definitely above the Wyatt family, and they definitely need to be built up and going in towards next year's Royal Rumble as probably the last two guys in that match. At least I'd hope so, going for the gold, because between feuding with Ryback and Daniel Bryan being beaten down in this whole feud with the establishment, these guys really need to win against two guys that I suppose look legitimate, but then again, I'm still not sold on the Wyatt family being a legitimate threat to these guys, so either way, I don't think you can put them over with CM Punk and Daniel Bryan without them coming off looking really weak.
Aiden?
Well, as far as how I feel going into this match, I have not enjoyed this build at all. I have no excitement for it as far as that's concerned. I'm not even excited for the match quality. I think the tag team themselves of Harper and Rowan is not very good, or even the whole collective of the Wyatts. I do think Luke Harper will eventually be the standout guy, but as a single star, unfortunately, he's really being held back by Erick Rowan. But despite all that, I'm going to be disagreeing with everyone here. I see the likely people coming out victors of this being Luke Harper and Erick Rowan. And I say this because what I see the long-term plan being is the Wyatts versus the Shield. And I would see them wanting both the Wyatts and the Shield looking strong outside when we finish this pay-per-view, because this is the pay-per-view all about big teams coming together. So make the Shield look strong inside the Survivor Series match, make the Wyatts look strong, beating two really established guys, and then as soon as this pay-per-view is over, you can start setting their courses for each other. We got a little bit of tease of it before, and that's what we're going to have going forward towards at least Royal Rumble, maybe even WrestleMania. As far as worrying about making Bryan or Punk look weak, I don't know if it necessarily has to be a legitimate victory for the Wyatts. I think we can have a little bit of foul play, maybe involvement from Bray, or maybe an introduction of a new Wyatt family member. Maybe someone comes out and surprises us. Something I would also see happening, if not at Survivor Series, but sometime in the next month or two, I would see a dissension coming between Punk and Bryan where one of them is going to turn heel.
If that does happen, I've been saying for a long time, if we see CM Punk turn heel, he's facing Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania.
Well, there you go.
And, you know, putting these two together, it starts kind of making you question it. Miguel, what's your thoughts on this match?
I'm in the same boat as Peyton. I'm okay. You know what? In retrospective, putting my whole irritability about Bryan being out of the main event scene right now, I guess being in this tag team does two things, and that A, it gives Bryan and Punk, who's been kind of floating around could have become a guy lost in the shuffle after the Ryback feud, but now this gives him some type of spotlight. Same with Bryan. Clearly, this shows that they trust Bryan and Punk because they want them to put over the Wyatts, Harper and Rowan. Right now, that's kind of Vince McMahon's little pet project. If it does lead to a heel turn between one of those guys and leads to a matchup, at WrestleMania or something like that, I'm all for it. So I'm okay with this whole tag team. In terms of the matchup, I think the Wyatts are going to win. I think Bryan and Punk are just there just to put those guys over for the Shield, because I do think that's really where the money feud is. I mean, after that Raw where they just stood toe to toe, I do think that's what the fans want.
Alrighty, next thing we're going to talk about is the Intercontinental Championship match: Big E Langston versus Curtis Axel.